All over social media in the age of social distancing, it has been a popular refrain to tell people to stay the F inside. Across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, one thing that seems to unify people is the rage they feel for people who go outside at this time, whether on a hiking trail to the beach or even a walk around their neighborhood. And then there is a sense of reverence for the essential workers that must go outside during this time. The doctors and emergency workers, yes, but also the grocery store workers, gas station attendants, delivery people, etc. I'll be honest, I don't feel the rage at the people going to outside for leisure, and I don't strictly feel reverence for essential workers. I think those feelings would be justified if we lived in a society that was meeting all of our needs economically and internally, but we don't live in that society. I think when we think of essential workers being forced to engage with the public during a pandemic, we should feel rage on their behalf. Doctors, nurses, and emergency workers are being forced to deal with truckloads of sick without proper safety precautions because our for-profit healthcare system has deemed it more profitable to keep resources scarce in a time of great demand. Our healthcare workers are being traumatized every day, being led essentially to slaughter without enough face masks and without enough scrubs, without even decent pay for our nurses. Our healthcare workers themselves are getting sick and dying. We cheer them on as heroes going to fight these battles that must be fought. But these battles don't have to be fought like this. In the richest country in the world, there should never have been a shortage of hospital beds, a shortage of protective equipment, a shortage of ventilators. Doctors should never have been so short-staffed and under-resourced that they have to choose who to save and who not to. We are traumatizing our best and brightest and calling them heroes, thinking that makes everything okay. But we can't stop there. Calling them heroes is not enough. Yes, they are heroes, which should enrage us even more that we allow these selfless heroes to go to war without armor. And understand that when these doctors get sick because they don't have the protective equipment they need, they are not even guaranteed health care to fight their own battle with the disease. It's not enough to call them heroes. We must rage against the system that forces these people into martyrdom. And the heroes at the grocery store, the heroes delivering our goods, those working at drive-thrus and any other business where they're deemed essential. These people are working for less than a living wage, forced to strike under these circumstances for hazard pay, sick leave. They're working through a pandemic and we're calling them heroes for it. But I guarantee you every grocery store worker would gladly sacrifice your reverence for them if that meant that they could have the privilege and the resources to social distance like the rest of us. We act like grocery store workers are showing up to work for us. And perhaps some are, sure, maybe some are. But even those people are doing it because this system has forced them to. They don't have another option. This country hasn't established a rent freeze while this crisis continues. They need to make money. And this system has forced these people out of their homes, away from their families, because they must earn the piss poor wage we have subjected them to, forcing them to put their own families at risk when they return home from a long day's work. Don't just call them heroes. They're people like you and me who didn't have the privilege to social distance. Don't think that calling them heroes absolves our society of the injustice of forcing them to do work at this time. Feel rage. Demand better on their behalf. And for those of us with the privilege to social distance, I'm tired of the uber fetishization of staying inside. Understand what our country and are asking for us to do right now. Our country knew about the threat of a pandemic for decades. Pentagon records show that our military knew about the coronavirus specifically as far back as 2017. Instead of doing anything to prepare for it, our government continued to blight our healthcare system, filling the pockets of wealthy insurance company and pharmaceutical and hospital CEOs for profit instead of doing the bare minimum to ensure the well-being of the American populace. And now, when a virus is ravaging every corner of the planet and our government won't even lift a finger to impose a rent moratorium for the people, and the best they can do is issue a $1,200 slap-in-the-face check that most Americans haven't even received yet, while spending trillions of dollars lining the pockets of companies that gave to their campaigns in the first place, our government is putting all the responsibility of curbing the virus on us, the people, while taking none for themselves. They take half our money in taxes, and the best they can do to keep us safe is to tell us all to put our entire lives on hold indefinitely. They can't even give us an exact date when this will be over. They tell us to give up everything we know and love. 16 million of us have lost our jobs in our healthcare. The rest of us have been told to shelter in place. and we yell at each other to stay inside. Who cares if your home is not a safe place? Who cares if your spouse is abusive? Who cares if your home isn't a good place for your mental health? Who cares if you can't even afford the home you're being told to stay in and live in fear every day of eviction? Stay inside. Who cares the circumstances? Humans are social beings by nature, and our government expects us to give up our entire lives and can't even meet us halfway with a rent moratorium. I'm not surprised some people aren't taking this crisis seriously, considering our absolutely grotesque job our government has done to take care of us and take this seriously for us. I urge everyone, do not get angry at your fellow American. Our mainstream media systems are filling our heads with false information. Our money is being stolen by corporations and political actors. Our government is lying to us and letting us die in the streets, our elections are being stolen from us, and our education systems don't teach us how to tell the difference. If there are some people who are able to find a bit of joy in this shit reality by taking a walk around their block alone, I have compassion for that person. The hurt they cause cannot be compared to the hurt our government is causing, nor can the amount of good they do by staying inside compare to the amount of good our government could do by giving a single damn. When we tell people to stay inside, there should be compassion in our voices, and understanding that this is hard. This is a hard thing to do. One day we were living our lives the best we knew how, and the next day we were just expected to give everything up and be happy about it. There should be compassion and fury at our leaders for being so inept that it's come to this. The fish rots from the neck down, and our anger would be much better spent demanding universal health care from our leaders and a Green New Deal so a crisis like this might never happen again. Imagine if all the energy we spent yelling at each other and other disenfranchised Americans to stay inside was instead directed at our elected officials demanding universal health care, demanding a Green New Deal, demanding living wages for all Americans, demanding a federal jobs guarantee to combat this unemployment crisis. Our rage is a powerful thing. Let us use it wisely.
You know what this was reminding me of as you were laying it out is vote shaming. How, it's the politicians and the people running for office and everybody in power who have the ability to shape this crisis and help give people what they need and everything. But for if they don't do everything perfect or the right way that you want, like we can't blame people who are economically distressed for doing their best to vote for what they think is in their interests when it's not on them. It's on the people in power to be changing these things. So when we're talking about the coronavirus, it's like it is on our government, our president, our the Pentagon for pointing out these things and making sure that the importance is understood to prepare all of us. It's not on the individual person who is trying to weigh, like, can I step outside for my mental health for a minute, even though this, may or may not be putting myself and others at risk.
Right. And remember that news story where like it was in Florida or something and there was a bunch of millennials that are just like out partying and they're like, if I get corona, I get corona. What am I going to do? And everyone's like, these fucking kids are so stupid. They're the worst. And they're like Gen Z actually, because people still think millennials are like early 20s. And like we were hating on these kids. They were like the beacon of all that is wrong with America's youth. And I'm like, I'm not angry at them. I understand that they don't get it. They're in Florida. The governor didn't even issue like a shelter in place warning until like last week, Like I think we need to have compassion and understanding for people that are not in charge. If you are not in charge, if this is not your job, if public health is not your job, then I don't blame you for fucking up. I think it's bad that you're doing it, and I think that and it's not helpful. Like literally, if you're looking at the facts, it's not helpful. But to hate these people doesn't get our point across. Are those kids going to stop partying because we call them idiots? Has the Trump? Go ahead.
I think it shows how important leadership is. Not that we need like a demonstration of that, but if like in California, where our governor has very much expressed the importance of sheltering in place and done all this this outreach to explain it to people, to do live streams and all of this, and we're not having the same issues with people flooding public spaces because of how it's being handled. You know, it's
Mhm.
not, I don't think there's like an inherent difference in the youth in Florida and the youth in California necessarily. I think there is a difference in how the leadership has been handling it. So
100%.
I'm with you. Let's approach everybody with compassion and put the blame where it needs to be on the people in charge.
Our rage is a powerful thing. Imagine if all the people who were yelling at those young kids in Florida for partying were like, well, God damn it, elected officials, you knew about the coronavirus back in 2017. Why is it even coming to this? Why are we even having to expect, 21-year-olds who are inherently irresponsible because they're young kids and they don't understand the consequences of their actions? Why are we expecting a group of drunk youths to have more responsibility than the federal government? It doesn't make sense for us to be angrier at them than we are at the leaders in charge.